Before we start here, this video is going to seem very Tomo F1, which is kind of what I'm going for. But yeah, the title is pretty self-explanatory. Today we're going to be making a tier list of every single one of the 2024 Formula E drivers' logos, and yeah, ranking them from worst to best. Racing drivers have some of the biggest brands in the world, and almost every one you see has a logo to represent them in some sort, Formula E drivers included. Now before we begin here, I will say that a lot of the logos on this list were really hard to find, and especially hard to find in high quality. So I have altered some and recreated others from reference images, so just know that some won't be 100% accurate to what the driver actually has. Anyways, this is our tier list for today. You can see the 5 tiers I have organized here, starting up at the top with, of course, top tier. These are for the best logos on the grid. 1 tier down is the quite like tier. These are for logos I quite like, have a positive opinion on. The middle tier is does the job, which are the logos I'm kind of neutral for. They do their job, but they don't have anything that, stands out, but at the same time, don't have anything that's inherently bad about them. Just under that is the could be better tier, which is the one that I probably have a few issues with. I think a few changes could make this logo quite a bit better. And the very bottom tier is may need a redesign, where, yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. They might need to start back from the drawing board for this one. Of course, this entire list is going to be my opinion, so let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. So I think a good logo to start with is our defending champion, Mr. Jake Dennis. Now this is the logo he uses on his websites, and I believe on some of his helmets as well. And, it's nice and neat, just the outline, his initials, JD, but it's pretty generic all things considered. And I really wanted to start with this one because it's a design philosophy that we're going to see a lot today. Just the 2 initials connected together with some sort of stylizing around it. It gets the job done. I will put it in that tier because there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but it doesn't stand out really in any way. And to sort of illustrate what I was talking about, let's move on to Oliver Rowland's logo, which again is used on his website. Again, it just gets the job done. It's not too special, not too unique, but there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's nice and neat, it does what it's supposed to, and I will put it alongside Dennis in the middle tier. Now, let's move on to Pascal Wehrlein. Now, this follows the same sort of algorithm with, featuring his 2 initials, the P and the W, but this one's a lot more unique. I do really like the skew of the P and the point coming off the W, which makes it look aerodynamic, like you'd expect from the logo of a racing driver, and it definitely stands out quite a bit, so I'm going to put this one in quite like for now, but I think this one can only go up. His teammate, though, Antonio Felix da Costa, sorry man, I don't really like this logo. There's just so much going on in it. There are so many different angles for each of the letters. The curves are really inconsistent, as is the spacing between the letters. I do like how the 13 is stylized, I guess, but that might be it for this logo if you ask me. Sorry, Antonio. Gotta put this one in needs a redesign. Next up, Nico Miller, which is used on his website. It's definitely different. I like the idea of using the signature. He has a really nice, compact little signature that could work quite well. But this logo looks like a cheap image trace. This is the logo I found for him. The size and the weight of the brush, it looks inconsistent. It really does look like someone just threw this into Illustrator and did an auto image trace. If it was a little more uniform and clean, it could be really good. But I'm going to put this one in needs some work. I think this one could definitely be up there if it was just done a little bit more cleanly. Now on a bit of a lighter note, let's move over to Sam Bird. I promise this one isn't biased, but I think we may have our first top tier logo. Of course, Sam's last name is Bird, so a bird could be a huge part of his branding, and he's definitely leaned into it. I really do appreciate that. And since I'm a Bird fan, I can actually show you one of his older logos that he had. And notice how this one is a lot more modern, has a more futuristic, almost crystal-like style to it. Which is a really nice touch considering he races in Formula E, which is, a modern, electric, futuristic motorsport. So yeah, great overall design in my opinion, really distinctive and really personal to Sam. Top tier, this one definitely stands out in amongst the field. Sasha Fenestraz has another one of the basic 2 initial logos. The styling is pretty nice, but I'm not a huge fan of the little lines between the lower parts of the S and the F. They seem kind of redundant to me, as if you zoom out, they kind of lose their appearance. So not sure if those are really needed. But this logo absolutely does the job. His 2023 rookie rival, though, Jake Hughes, is a bit more unique. I think the 2 sides of the arrow can kind of show his initials if, you look at it as if it's like an uppercase J and a lowercase H. But it's kind of low-key. I don't think he was really going for that when he was designing this logo, or whoever was designing this logo. To be honest, I just kind of like the arrow. It's a nice little distinctive logo. Again, it stands out. He's doing something different from everyone else. So I'm going to put this one in quite like. I'll do these next two logos together because they're almost identical, just styled a slight bit differently. Norman Nato and Nick Casty both have their initials and a little star at the top. Both are nice and neat, do the job, but once again are pretty generic and aren't really all too personal. So, mid-tier. Sergio Sette Camera has a nice little logo here. The S with the number 7, which was Sette's personal number before he got to Neo. Again, I'm not entirely sure about the thin lines separating the S and the 7, as they do lose their viewability from a distance, but I'm gonna put this one quite like. Next up is Sebastian Buemi. This logo just looks dated, in my opinion. It reminds me of something, maybe the logo for a racetrack. If you know what this is, or like what looks similar to this, please let me know in the comment section because I can't quite pick it out right now. But it screams early 2000s to me. As we've been going along here, I've made all the logos, or most of them, monochromatic, so I can really just emphasize the styling of them. But this one doesn't really work like that because obviously you have the gradient in there. The font is pretty uninspired as well, just pretty basic. This one could be better. I won't say it needs a complete redesign because it definitely doesn't have anything that straight up offends me, but it could definitely welcome a few changes to freshen things up. His teammate Robin Friends has one of the 2 initial logos, but I think this is one of the better ones. The circle makes it a nice little emblem with the R and the F. All the line weight is consistent, it's nice and neat. Yeah, I'm gonna put this one in quite like. This one's doing it for me. Now we're getting to one of my favorite logos on the list. Call me crazy, but I think Maximilian Gunther has one of the best logos on the grid. It may not look like much, just a simple Max G, but that's all a logo really needs to be. And just the simple text has a lot more personality than most of the logos on this list. You can immediately tell whose logo this is, and partly because it's been made the centerpiece on his helmet, but it's just nice, neat and clean, love the soft, rounded font, just absolutely works for me. Top tier. You might disagree, but I think it definitely deserves to be up there. Johan has another simple 2 initial logo here. I have all these logos mostly monochromatic for consistency, but on his helmet, this logo is actually green and orange for the Indian flag, which is something. But something I do have an issue with on this logo is that the D kind of looks like an A. I'm not really sure what you can do to fix that, but in this logo, the 2 letters are all you really have. So if one of the letters is kind of ambiguous, it kind of makes the logo meaningless. You're gonna put this one and could be better. Next up is Nick DeVries, who has a few different logos, but I'm gonna go with this one, which is the one on his website and I believe is on his helmet for this year. This one is really different to everything else. It fits perfectly in the circle, it has all of the letters formed around it, and it features a little heart there, which I think is part of his branding, I'm not entirely too sure, but call me crazy, but I really like this. I'm gonna put this one in quite like. It's definitely different, and like I've said on this list, different is definitely better when all of the logos follow the same basic 2 initial format. Another logo I'm going to put in quite like is Lucas Degrassi's. I quite like the font he used here, and of course the DG with the slash between it. It's definitely different, it stands out. Now, quite possibly the most unique logo on this list is probably Mitch Evans, with this face dragon. I'm not entirely sure what this is here. It could be something related to New Zealand. I'm really sorry. I'm not entirely sure if there's like a backstory to this, but it stands out. I'm gonna put this one in quite like because it's just so different from everything else on this list. Just that bottom part, the mouth of the dragon or whatever, it has his 2 initials, the M and the E. I think that in and of itself could be a nice little logo here, but the dragon on top giving it some sort of identity. Yeah, I like this one, even if I don't fully understand it. Eduardo Mortara is another one of the more unique logos on here with his graffiti face. This one, I'm not entirely sure if this is his logo. This is just the art that's on the top of most of his helmets. So I'd assume this is his logo, but not entirely sure. I really like this one, but is it top tier? I'm gonna say no for now, just because I'm not sure how flexible this logo could be for a lot of things. Considering his name is, well, sideways on it. But yeah, I'm gonna put this one in quite like. It's definitely distinctive, but lacks the, I guess, refinement, you could say, of some of the other logos on this list. Now, Dan Ticktum, I'm not entirely sure if this is his logo. This is the only real one I could find. I believe this was from his website. It's fine. Does the job. Now, Stoffel Vandoorne's logo is probably one of the more, probably say, famous of the logos on this list. It's the only one on this list that tries to incorporate his flag, the Belgian flag, which I really do appreciate. But like I talked about with Pascal Wehrlein's logo, it has the sharp edges, and it's skewed a little bit to the right, which makes it seem aerodynamic, like it's going fast, like you'd expect from the logo of a race car driver. This one's top tier for me. It's just so iconic. And the last logo we have to look at here is Jean-Eric Vern. Now, this one I had to make monochromatic. I'm not sure if it ever appears monochromatic, though. On all of his helmet designs and on some of his, promotional graphics or whatever, it always has this sort of shading to it, this texture, this gradient, whatever you call it. I'm just not the biggest fan of it. I think it just kind of looks messy. Made monochromatic, I do quite like it. It's almost symmetrical here, and it has all three of his initials. Worked out in a pretty clever way, might I add. It's sort of put in like a little shield, which I do appreciate. I'm gonna put this one in quite like, but I'm not entirely sure about all of the shading he uses on his actual logo. I think it kind of depends where it's used. If it's used on a helmet, the shading works because you can really design around it and utilize those consistent colors. But like if this is on like a document or something, I think it really does need to be monochromatic. So, I believe that is all of them. All 22 logos. Quite an interesting selection here, and you can definitely tell that the logos near the top are ones that stand out and are different, and just try to use a little bit of imagination. If you ask me about my favorite logo on this list, I think I still have to go with Maximilian Gunther's. It's just so nice, neat, and clean, and you can use it for so many different things. Nevertheless, let me know what you guys think down below. What is your favorite logo? What is your least favorite logo? Do you agree with my opinions? Do you disagree? I am definitely looking forward to reading your comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.